and those are important conversations to have. But then once you prepare yourself, then people come to you with that opportunity. They see you as, okay, this guy's been putting everything in. He's already operating at the next level. So let's give him a call and give that opportunity. So that's one thing. And I think the related thing to that, when you think about how do you get yourself in that spot, right? That might not always be.
That was my next question. It's like, what did you do to prepare for that? What can you share there? Welcome to the BioTalk Unzipped podcast, where we unzip the stories behind medical progress by sharing the latest and greatest advances in biopharmaceuticals and medical technologies in a fun, entertaining, and enlightening format. And now your co-hosts, Gregory Austin and Dr. Chad Briscoe. Hello, and welcome to BioTalk Unzipped, where we unzip, unpack, and try to make sense of this crazy world that is biotech and pharma. I'm Gregory Austin. I'm here with my co-host, Chad Briscoe, and we will be here this is our episode 1, Chad. We're getting started. This is it. And we're going to introduce ourselves for those who maybe don't know us as well. And we're going to dig into some things that are going on in the biotech world. And Chad, I'm going to have some questions for you, and I might surprise you with a couple questions that you may not be expecting. And we're going to just dive right in.
Sounds good, Greg. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. So, if you haven't met me, if you're you're tuning in for the first time, I'm Gregory Austin. I'm currently a business development manager for a company called Pro Pharma Group, and we are a research consulting organization that helps companies get their drugs to market faster and safer through a number of different ways. And I live in the quality compliance space primarily. I have a very, I guess you could call it a unique career trajectory. I was initially trained in grad school as a developmental psychologist in infancy and psychophysiology, but learned kind of the hard ways. I went in there because that's what I was really interested in, not looking into what the pay was for behavioral scientists, and started a family, and that really wasn't going to work out as well. So I got into business intelligence, sales, marketing, conference directing, recruiting, and small fact, I was even a police officer in Savannah, Georgia for a few years in my youth. That was kind of an interesting time. But during my recruiting days, I wrote a book called Stellar Resume Writing, Secrets from a Corporate Recruiter. And I have been involved in the pharmaceutical industry for about 10 years now. And 3 years of that was running a scientific symposia at a nonprofit called the Boston Society, which led a number of meetings like applied pharmaceutical analysis, talks, and med chemistry meetings. And that's actually where I met my friend, Dr. Chad Briscoe, who helped me plan those meetings. And we have known each other ever since. So Chad, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and where you've been.
You bet. And I think I see my role in this podcast as color commentary. So I'm happy to. I'm really pleased that you're allowing me to work with you on this. It's going to be a great time. But as your career is unique in that it took a lot of different directions, Greg, I think my career maybe is unique in that I've been on somewhat of a singular path through a few different companies. So I'm currently the executive vice president for bioanalytical science at a company called Solarion. Solarion's a clinical trials company. We do phase 1 and other healthy clinical trials. We do a lot of data management, biostats type work. And then my division is the bioanalytical division, where we run primarily regulated bioanalytical clinical trials for all sorts of different drugs and drug modalities and things like that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I started my career back in 1997, my career in pharma, that is, in CRO space, actually here at the predecessor to what's now Solarion, and that's that's the company I was with when I met you, Greg, when I first started doing some talks at APA and some other meetings where we bumped into each other. But I spent 13 years here in Lincoln, Nebraska, at the predecessor company. Left and was at another CRO for about 10 years in a number of different senior level executive and scientific roles, and then I was 3 years, kind of the pandemic years. I was with a different company, and when I was there, I ended up out in North Carolina. So I'm living most of the time in North Carolina now, and loving it out there. And it was fantastic in January when I rejoined Solarion in the current role, yeah, and
Nice.
now loving the opportunity for us to work together on something new and different from what we
Yeah.
did in the past. So yeah, really excited about that, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that information. I know a lot of our viewers that have come in kind of from my side haven't met you yet, so that's helpful to know.
Yeah.
And I wanted to explain to the viewers, why we're doing this. This first episode is a little bit different. It is going to be an interview-based type of a podcast, both in video and in audio. And the idea is we're going to be tackling a number of different topics that we think are interesting and compelling, and bringing in some experts in the field to help us dissect that. And that's primarily what I wanted to do is bring it into kind of a broader audience so they can understand why things happen, what it takes to get a drug to market, and how are things discovered, what are things involved in the costing process, what is personalized medicine, a whole bunch of different opportunities of topics that we're going to reach out and tackle over the next year or so. We plan to do this for now about once a month, looking at the fourth week of the month to publish. That's the plan. And that's really been my mission, just to really educate, share these methods and advances of biopharmaceuticals and medical technologies, and doing that through just conversations, and keeping it interesting and fun and light in the process, but also making it relevant to the technical audience at large also.
Well, I'll tell you, I agree, but I have a simpler vision that I haven't even told you yet, Greg.
Tell me.
And my vision is I want this to sound like a conversation that might be overheard at the bar at a conference, just like many of the conversations we had when we first got to know each other. Like, you've been at a conference all day, you've heard great science, and then you're sitting down with a beer with a colleague or somebody maybe you just met, and you're talking about the interesting presentation, the fantastic science, or just what's going on in their life. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it. So all that stuff you said, but I want it to be fun and light, and whether we have a beer in hand or not, probably not, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it as well. So really looking forward to this.
Well, I am as well. I see us having maybe an evening opportunity for a shoot, so we can do that. Have the cocktail hour, right?
Yeah, I love it.
That'll be fun. All right, so we're going to have some segments in here. One of the things we're going to talk about every episode is we're going to talk about something in the news. And the one thing that kind of caught my eye today, and there's two things I want to tackle on this. How often, by the way, I'm just curious, because I use these opportunities to try and keep up to speed on what's happening in the industry. So I'll get the email from Fierce Biotech and Fierce Pharma just to hear what's going on. How often do you kind of pay attention to that, and where do you get your news sources?
Oh, well, no doubt. Fierce Pharma, Fierce Biotech are certainly distribution lists I'm on. I actually listen to a lot of podcasts. My family thinks I'm crazy because I'm a 2x podcast listener, so I listen to them in double speed so I can get twice as much content taken in. And I like so many different genres of podcasts that I really need to do that. But absolutely, there's some fantastic podcasts out there that cover different areas of both what I would call the hardcore science as well as the popular science. So that's a place I love to get my news. But and again, we said it a couple times, but certainly at different conferences that I go to where we can pick up things. That's another place. I mean, it's
Sure.
So all sorts of different sources of information for me, and quite frankly, I work with a lot of different companies, in a lot of different spaces. So I have the good fortune to learn about different drugs and different progress and research just through my day-to-day work, and then it kind of sometimes it sends you down a rabbit hole, right? You learn, you talk to a company that's doing protein degrader assays, and then you're like, oh, I got to look that up a little bit, and then you can, before you know it, you're spending 45 minutes Googling and reading stuff on different different types of drugs and where the market's going. So
Absolutely. I think it's a great tip. And if you'll be so kind, we'll probably list some of those additional opportunities for picking up some scientific information in the show notes.
you bet.
The latest one that came out yesterday, of course, just in time for Halloween, is the 2023 Biotech Graveyard. And so I don't know if you've seen this particular article. Yeah, well, they're which is probably painful for some people. And if you're on that list from 2022, 2023, my condolences. It's a tough business, and we're going to talk about some of these things out there, why it's so difficult, and can be pretty stressful in startup mode, getting from phase 1, 2 to 3, and actually getting to market. But yeah, they published a list of the companies that did not make it this year.
Yeah,
and so it's a shame, and
but
it's painful to see.
Yeah, what's amazing is if you were to take that list and hold on to it and kind of look at their assets, and then compare it to maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, and see how many of those assets maybe got picked up by a different company, or somebody found a different indication. We see that all the time, where a drug was just not moving forward for one reason or another, and then somebody picks it up and finds a way to make use of that asset. So a dead company doesn't always mean a dead drug, so that might be something to watch for. Maybe that's a different opportunity for throwing suggestions to Fierce Pharma, like, hey, maybe you should do an article on the drugs that have been resurrected from your graveyard.
There you go. That would be a great one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an Easter time article. I don't know, but that would be
excellent. Took me a second.
And so, we'll see. No, I think sometimes a drug just fails, and it's a one-trick pony, and it they don't have enough money to keep going with anything else. Other times, there's maybe it's a decent compound or a good idea, and they just ran out of money before they could get it, far enough down the road, which is always a great opportunity for another company to pick it up and buy that asset. And like you said, do something with it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to dig into some questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to dig into before we got into the question section?
No, I'm looking forward to hearing what you got for me. So I know you shared the notes, but I think you've got more than just what the notes were. So let's see what you got.
All right. So what for you in your career was the most surprising thing you encountered throughout your adventure in this industry?
Wow. Ooh. This is where I get myself in trouble. The number of bad decisions I see people making. I was just talking with somebody about this with different organizations I've been with, and an organization I've watched, and it goes back to the graveyard thing, and not all of those drugs and companies are in the graveyard because of bad decisions, but so often, it seems that the simplest ideas and the right path to go, people go left when they should go right, and I've watched bad decision after bad decision, and been really surprised. Sometimes it's good people making bad decisions. Sometimes you get people that just don't seem to know what they're doing, and you think, man, if you would just sit back and think about what's really right, what really is the right decision, I think you'd be in a much better spot. So that's something. And I say that because I think people talk about that all the time, right? And a lot of times it's that unloading about, oh, this person's doing this or they're doing that, and I think a lot of times it's right. There are just a lot of bad decisions being made. So that was just what came to mind.
And that's that's a very good answer. And sometimes it's tough because there's, sometimes someone will start a company and they have a great vision, and they have some good compounds and ideas. And then you're right. They take a left turn down the wrong path, and you're like, what happened.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all under duress, especially in those situations, to make quick decisions, and you hope it's the right one. And sometimes it's just, for whatever reasons, it's not.
And the related failing to that might be nobody pointing it out to someone, right? Whether it's maybe they don't feel comfortable because they wouldn't want to point out to their boss, or it's a peer needs to grab them and say, hey, that doesn't make sense. Are you sure? But so often these ideas just go down. They get legs and they get going down the wrong direction. So I hope that certainly people that, everybody in my life, right? People seem to be comfortable pointing out my bad decisions. So maybe that's one of the secrets to my success, right?
There you go. It's like, don't do that. What are you doing?
Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
it's good advice in life.
That's the touchy-feely part. Be vulnerable. Yeah.
Well, the funny things in the family as well as I don't know what it is for other people, but my wife and my kids, they don't hold back. They're like, "What were you thinking?" What are you doing? I don't even know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. It's a sport in my house.
I bet.
Well, you've been there. You were just there last week.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great dynamic and a great meal. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You bet.
So, what advice would you give either a grad student, or a young scientist just getting into this industry in drug discovery and development that maybe you wish you would have had?
Boy, there's so many different things, but I'll tell you again. First couple things that come to mind. One is that some of the best things have come to me when I didn't ask, but I prepared myself for the opportunity. Right. So, I've had times in my career where I worked really hard, was trying to drive towards something and push towards something and push to get promoted, or push for this opportunity. And, when pushed to be, very early in my career, it was like, oh, I want to go to this conference, or I want to, and then, sometimes those things happen. Sometimes you're disappointed, but the very, very best promotions, opportunities, and even this job I have now, which is probably my favorite job I've ever had, came to me when I wasn't looking for it. And it came to me though because I was prepared to take on that next role. I was prepared for that next opportunity. I've sort of spent a career. If you take the current role I have now, I've sort of spent my whole career building the right experiences so that when I got that phone call back in December saying, hey, come back to the company in this executive VP role, I was able to just say, yes, let's do it. And they said, great. And it was a 5-minute conversation and then couple of interviews and job was done. Right. It was really easy for both sides. And on the flip side, I remember at times you want to advocate for yourself. Right. So I've had conversations about, hey, I want to move into leadership role, or, I want to do some publications. I want, different things I wanted to do. And sometimes like, okay, let's put a pause on that. You're not quite here yet. You need to develop, in this place, and those are important conversations to have. But then once you prepare yourself, then people come to you with that opportunity. They see you as, okay, this guy's been putting everything in. He's already operating at the next level. So let's give him a call and give that opportunity. So that's one thing. And I think the related thing to that, when you think about how do you get yourself in that spot, right? That might not always be.
That was my next question. It's like, what did you do to prepare for that? What can you share there?
So early in my career, I would say I've been thinking about how I break my career into sort of quartiles lately. And I'm probably in the somewhere in the third quartile, maybe at the beginning of the third quartile, I'd like to think. And so just past halfway point, maybe, I don't know. But early in my career, I was always looking for mentors, and I was very fortunate to have some people grab me and say, hey, you're a guy with potential, so I want to mentor you. But also I sought out some people that I thought were really good mentors. And that doesn't mean, and it shouldn't just be your boss. It can be anybody. It doesn't, if you're a scientist, it doesn't mean you have to go find the most brilliant scientist. I found fantastic mentors that were not scientists at all, but really great at management and learned a lot there. And then as I've progressed in my
Right.
career, I think one of the things, and that helped me to prepare for opportunities. And now I think something that's prepared me to lead is mentoring people. First of all, I love it. I love seeing the success. I love it more than I like seeing my own success. Right? I mean, when I see the
It's awesome.
success of people I've mentored, that's the best thing. I mean, it's like
Right.
your kids, right? It's similar. Like you celebrate your kids' success so much more than your own. I mean, that's
Right.
and it feels a little bit the same way. Not to be, not to diminish the grown ups that you're mentoring, right? But it
Right.
feels so great to have that
Mm.
opportunity to have mentored, and I think that's put me in a position to lead. It's almost like practice leadership when your job is leadership, right? So like the staff
Yeah.
that I lead right now, I mean, it's my job to lead and mentor them, but if you're mentoring somebody on the side, that's kind of like practice for some of those conversations that
Mm.
is in a way lower stakes. So yeah, those are two things I've done that have really helped me and progress my career, and still I love the opportunity to mentor. That's just, yeah, very gratifying.
That's a great story. It's a
Yeah,
really good advice,
yeah,
I think. And so, if you use a football metaphor, great head coaches make new head coaches in the
yes.
process. If you look
Hmm.
like how many head
Hmm.
coaches came out of Belichick or came out of Andy Reid's camp, right? And you see
Yeah.
some of them
Oh,
like Doug
without a doubt.
Peterson, he won a Super Bowl.
Yep. Yep.
So those are the things. And I'm kind of wondering, I have my own opinion about this, but I think most people would probably agree. Do you think it's easier to find a mentorship relationship within a scientific field, especially in a biotech or pharmaceutical company, probably in a more established ones than
Hmm.
when everyone's hair is on fire just trying to get through,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the next stage. But do you think those mentorship opportunities happen more often because people kind of rose up through academia and you had graduate advisors that got you through your master's and your PhD than you would say in just a normal or other industry or standard business arrangement?
It's hard for me to answer if it's unique to the scientific field, because that's the only space I've been in, right? But
Fair,
it'd be
fair.
interesting to come back and ask that to somebody outside and maybe do a
Mm-hmm.
compare and contrast at some point. But I say that, but I've always had that feeling that there's that
Mm-hmm.
natural, because it's a very academic sort of pursuit and an academic endeavor, and that yes, it is sort of a natural scientific guidance. There was a woman that's very, very much beloved, and one of the bioanalysis OGs named Jean Lee. She was here in Lincoln at the time MDS, and wrote some very seminal papers in a number of different topics in bioanalysis. But Jean was never my direct boss, but
Mm.
boy, was she ever the most amazing scientific mentor, that I could imagine. I mean, coming in and saying, hey, ask me to figure out what are the questions I need to ask about my data.
Mm.
How do you present your data? Letting you know when you don't present your data right. How do I present my data to her, right? And just thinking about problems and solving problems, and then watching her and how she built her reputation in the community, and was out and connecting with people, and just really so really thinking about somebody like that. It was very much an advisor slash mentor, almost like an academic type of relationship. But again, within a business, trying to solve problems, and that both move drugs forward and make the company money, because that is ultimately an important factor of what we do in our
Right.
employment. Yeah.
Right. Because it's, unless you're in certain organizations like the NIH, this is not
Hmm.
we're in for-profit companies. And if you
Yep.
don't make a profit, then there's not going to be a company, obviously.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
there you have it. But I think, as an outsider kind of looking in, I haven't been into a sponsorship level company myself, but working within the industry in different areas, I would say it's true that there's better, just through the conversations I've had, better better mentorship opportunities within that scientific space than there are in some other industries. And I put it out there to the audience for those who are listening. Give us some feedback through the chat or review and let us know what you think. Do you think there's better mentorship opportunities in science as opposed to other areas? Because I certainly think there are, for sure. So we're going to end this episode right here, even though the conversation will continue. The initial conversation was longer than expected. We wanted to keep our episodes a little shorter, between 25 and 30 minutes. So please keep a lookout for episode 2, which will be part 2 of this conversation. Thank you so much for listening and staying with us along this journey. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing, and we hope to see you real soon.